Hey guys, Saion Gupta here, founder of 10x Coder Kids and an official Guinness record holder for the youngest computer programmer in the world. And today we are going to be solving a difficult coding interview question, right? So without any delay, let's get started. So in this question, we have been given two calendars. Sorry about that. One is the calendar of person one, and the other is the calendar of person two. Now the calendar of person 1 has meetings in it, and calendar of person 2 is also having meetings in it. So these timings, between these timings, person 1 is busy and unavailable. Between these timings that are mentioned in calendar 2, the person 2 is busy and not available, right? Two more pieces of information are given. Inbounds 1 is the inbounds for calendar 1. Basically, it says that person 1 can only have a meeting between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m., right? And inbounds 2 is saying that person 2 can only have a meeting between 10 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., right? So these are the inbounds of person 1 and person 2, right? This is the calendar of person 1, this is the calendar of person 2. And what our aim is, we have to find out when can person 1 and person 2 can have a meeting. So at what times can person 1 and person 2 have a meeting of 30 minutes, right? So the minutes are also mentioned, that how long the meeting will their meeting be, right? So basically we have to find out the times at which person 1 and person 2 can have a meeting, right? And the answer for this question will be 11:30 to 12, 15:00 to 16:00, and 18:00 to 18:30, right? This will be the answer. Now let's start coding. And for this whole question, we are how are we going to go about this? We'll have a array big calendar, right? So in this we are going to combine their unavailable times, and we are going to save the times uh, where they cannot have a meeting at all. For example, person 1 is having a meeting from 9 to 10:30, and he is free from 10:30 to 12. But in calendar 2 it says that person 2 is having a meeting from 10 to 11:30, and he is only free from 11:30 to 12:30. So the common basically what we can see, both of them cannot have a meeting from 9 to 11:30. That's what we can see from this data. Similarly over here, person 1 is having a meeting from 12 to 1, person 2 is having a meeting from 12:30 to, what is this, it is 2:30, right? So we can also see over here that there can be no meetings scheduled. So there can be no meeting scheduled between your 12 what we say your 12 to 14:30, right? So there can be no meeting scheduled between 12 to 14:30, right? And then we can see that from 1 o'clock to what is this, 4 o'clock, person 1 is free, but person 2 is only free from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, right? So 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, they can also have a meeting because both of them are free at that times. So you basically get the idea. In big calendar we will have all the times where they are unavailable, where they cannot have a meeting, right? All right, so what are our possibilities now? What are our possibilities over here? So by possibilities I'm going to show you what I mean. One possibility is that the start time over here is less than the start time over here, and the end time over here is less than the end time over here. This is the case over here, right? Between this and this is the case. Start time over here is less than so start time 1 is less than start time 2, right? And end time 1 is less than end time 2. That's one possibility. Second possibility is start time 1 is less than start time 2 and end time 1 is greater than end time 2. Sorry about that. Right, so start time 1 is less than start time 2, but end time 1, like for example if this was 12, then end time 1 is greater than end time 2. This is also one possibility, right? Third possibility we have is that start time 1 is greater than start time 2 and also start time 1 is greater than end time 2. For example, over here, if we compare this and this, we can see that start time 1 is greater than start time 2 and start time 1 is also greater than end time 2, right? So that's also a case we need to handle. Next we have start time 1 is greater than start time 2 and end time 1 is greater than end time 2. So for example, if this was 15:30, so start time 1 will be greater than start time 2 and end time 1 will be greater than end time 2, right? And final case is start time 1 is greater than start time 2 but end time 1 is less than end time 2. So for example, this was, if it was 16:30 over here, then this case will match, right? Okay, so these are our possibilities that will be there. Now to make things easy, I'm just going to create a function r to mins, right? And in this I'll take the r, and this is military time and it will be sorted, right? So it's a calendar, so calendar is sorted. Similarly over here this will be sorted and the timings will be in military time, right? Next we have variable split r, that is equals to r dot split on colon, right? So we are going to split on colon, and then we are going to return number. So we are basically after splitting on colon, we'll have the r separately and the added minutes separately. So what we can say, number split r 0, right? So the r into 60 plus whatever minutes are mentioned over here plus number yep, split r 1, right? So this will give us the time in minutes, right? And this function will be very useful coming forward. Now before writing the logic, what we are going to do, in the logic we have to ensure that I have written, we have to ensure that calendar 1's length is shorter than calendar 2's length. So what we are going to say, if calendar 1 dot length is greater than calendar 2 dot length, that over here is true, but if it wasn't, uh, no, that over here is false, right? But if this was true, then what we would do, we'll create a temporary variable that is equals to that will basically save the value of calendar 2, right? And this is the spread operator, right? So basically spread operator spreads all the values, and then we are basically, this is a way to copy different arrays, right? So it spreads all the values and then we are saving all those values in an array, and that is being saved in temp. Then we are changing the value of calendar 2 to be equals to calendar 1, right? And calendar 1 equals to temp. So basically we are just swapping the arrays, right? So if calendar 1 is longer than calendar 2, then we are swapping those arrays, right? Swapping those calendars, right? Very cool. Next what we'll do, we are going to work on inbounds. So we'll just create an array m, right? And then we are going to say if r's to mins, alright, if r's to mins inbounds 1, so we are taking inbounds 1, 0. So if we convert these r's to minutes of inbounds 1, right? And if these are greater than, if these are greater than hours to minutes, inbounds to 0. So if these are greater, if these are greater than this, then do something, right? But as we can see, they are not greater, so it won't go in this if statement. But if it was going in this if statement, then we would say m dot push inbounds 1 0, else m dot push inbounds to 0, right? So what, look, if we had taken 9 to be inbound, basically inbounds is that before 10 person 2 cannot have a meeting, and after 18:30 person 2 cannot have a meeting, and before 9 person 1 cannot have a meeting, and after 20:00 person 1 cannot have a meeting. Now before 10 person 2 cannot have a meeting, but before 10 person 1 can have a meeting. But as both of their times do not match, that means that before 10 both of them cannot meet together, right? So you get my point. That's why we are taking the greater value over here, that is in this case 10:00. And over here for the end value, we'll take the smaller value, right? Because after 18:30 person 2 cannot have a meeting, but after 18:30 person 1 can have a meeting, but their times don't match after 18:30, so that's why before 18:30 both of them can only have a meeting. So the same logic we are going, basically if inbounds 1 0 is less than, so right now now we'll take the less value. Now this is not less, so it won't go over here and it won't push it, but it will go in the else statement and push inbounds to 1, that is 18:30, right? Very cool. So now in m, basically what we have 10:00 and 18:30. All right, let's move forward. Now we are going to come on to the main logic. We are just going to create a x variable to be 0. We'll talk about that later. We have a function create big calendar, right? And we are just going to call create big calendar, right? Very cool. Now in create big calendar, we are going to have a multi-dimensional loop for variable I equals 0, I less than what we say calendar 1 dot length I plus plus. So calendar 1 is the shorter calendar. So next we are going to loop on the longer calendar for variable j equals to 0. J is not equals to 0, j is equals to x, and I'm going to tell you in a second why. J less than calendar 2 dot length and j plus plus. Now why are we saying j equals to x? Because when this and this are combined, right? When, so basically combine both the times, right? So when this and this is combined, then when we check for this and this, it makes no sense, as this and this have already combined, so checking with this and this won't make sense. So this has to check with this over here, right? So instead of just deleting stuff and all, we are creating a x counter variable that we are going to use, so that the loop, when we start the j loop, it does not start from the 0th index, but from the first index or the second index or the third index, right? Very cool. Now we are going to say if ours to mins, so a calendar. Now we are going to tackle our first possibility. Start 1 is less than start 2 and end 1 is less than end 2, right? So if calendar 1 I0, right? So this is less than or equals to. Now why are we saying less than equals to? because I figure out when we are writing the logic, we don't need the possibilities separately for equals to, right? Equals to will be tackled itself when we are doing less than or greater than possibilities, right? So we don't need extra possibilities for equals. So that's why we are just directly giving less than equals to over here only, so that we can basically omit possibilities, different possibilities for like equals checking, right? So if arch to mins calendar I0 is less than equals to arch to mins calendar to J0, right? So if it is S1 is less than S2, and not this, and basically n1 is less than n2, so n1 is less than equals to n2, so n2, right? Then what we are going to do, we are basically going to push inside a big calendar, right? And what are we going to push? Now over here we want to see the meeting cannot be from 9 to 11:30, because at those times either of them is busy, right? So what we'll push 9 to 11:30. Now what is 9? It's the minimum value between these two, and what is 11:30? It's the maximum value between these two. So what we are going to push, we are going to push calendar 1 I0, right? Calendar 1 I0, comma calendar 2J1, right? So calendar 1 I0 and calendar 2J1, right? Very cool. Next what we are going to do, we are just going to say x equals to j plus 1, because when we have tackled these two, we want the next one to tackle this, right? And now that we have tackled this with this, we can just break out of the loop, right? So we could have used the while loop also, but let's just use the for loop for now. So else if arch, now the next possibility is s1 is less than s2 and n1 is greater than n2. So we are just going to copy this, paste this over here. This less than is tackled, but if n1 is greater than n2, then what do we need to do? Let's see. For example, this was 11:30, this was 10:30. So this is less than this and this is greater than this. Then what we will push? Yes, we are going to push calendar 9 and 11:30, right? So whatever is there in calendar 1, that we are going to push in this scenario. So what we are going to push, we are going to say, all right, we are going to say big cal dot push, just copy from here, paste it over here, big cal dot push calendar 1 I0 and calendar 1 I1, right? Then we are going to say x equals to j plus 1 and break. Now the third case, in the third case we are saying s1 is greater than s2 and s1 is greater than e2. Now this will be a bit different case. When will this happen? We have this case in our sample also. When this is greater than this and this is also greater than this, right? So this case needs to be triggered when over here, right? When checking for this and this case will be triggered. So what are we going to check? We are going to check if the start one, so we're going to check if it is greater than, is equals to start 2, and start 1 is greater than equals to end 2, right? So this case over here, right? And in this case, oh my god, I'm changing the already existing case, sorry about that, right? So copy this, paste this, right? So if so basically in this else if uh when this is greater than equals to this, and this is greater than j j1, and so I think we are doing the correct thing, right? So it's 1600 greater than 1430. So calendar I0 is greater than equals to this, and calendar I0, right, is greater than this. Then what we are going to do, we are just going to push. Then what we are going to do, think, we are just going to push this case. Why? Because this case we then know is completely different from this case, right? So this case will be corresponding to this case and not this case, so we are going to push this case as it is. So what we are going to do, we are going to say calendar to j0 and calendar to j1, right? And over here, as we know that this case is not corresponding to this case but it is corresponding to this case, what we are going to do, we are not going to break out, or we are not going to increment x over here. Very well. Now what we are going to do, we are going to tackle the fourth case, that is start1 is greater than start2 and end1 is greater than end2. Else if start1 is greater than start2 and n1 is greater than n2. Start1 is greater than start2 and n1 is greater than n2, right? Then what should happen? So when start1 is greater than equals to start2 and n1 is greater than n2, then what we'll do, we'll just say that from 1600 to 1800, or if this was 1530, right? So if this was 1530 for example, then we have to say that from 1530 to 1800 they are not available, right? So what we are going to say over here next is big cal dot push calendar 2 j0 and calendar 1 I1, right? And the final case, our final case is s1 greater than s2 and e1 less than e2. So s1 greater than s2 and e1 less than e2. For example, this was 1530 and this was 1700 and this was 1800. Then this case has been matched, so what we will push, we are going to push this and this. So basically calendar 2's both the figures we are going to push. So when this is greater than this and it is less than this, then calendar 2's both the figures need to be pushed, right? And then when you this was our create big calendar function. When we basically check the value of big calendar now, we have the big calendar. So from 9 to 11:30, that's what we expected. Then 12 to 14:30, very well. Then 14:30 to 15, because this case did not match with this, it actually matched with this, right? So 14:30 to 1500, and then 1600 to 1800, and that's what we get, right? So now our big calendar has been created. Now very simply we are just going to take out the answer in the answer array, right? And we're going to say if hours to minutes big calendar 00. I'm going to explain this in a second after writing this. Minus hours to minutes m0 is greater than equals to minutes. The minutes variable is the variable that contains the length of our meeting, right? Then answer dot push m0 big cal 0 0. Now what are we doing over here? Remember m that we created just for our bounds, right? So now m, what we check, we get 10 to 20 0 0. That's not right, that's not right. If this m uh, 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 hmm oh, I'm checking 0 over here, it should be 1. Sorry about that. Now now if we check m, we get 10 0 0 18 30, right? Correct. All right, so remember m over here. So now we are checking from 10 to the first time. So big cal we are checking. Big cal is the first time 9, right? So from 10 to 9, is there any time free? So as we know, from 10 to 9 there is like, it the time is in minus. So when we subtract 9 from 10, so when we are saying hours to minutes, big cal 0 0, right, minus hours to minutes, m0. So 0 0 gives us 9, right? So from 9 to uh, so we want the meeting from 9. Sorry, we want the meeting from your starting, the time from which the meetings can start for the person, till their first meetings time, right? That's that length we want to take out. So that time is in negative, because the meetings that they can commonly start at is at 10, right? So in our m, we are saying that their meeting can start at 10, right? And 10 to 9, right? So 10 to 9, that does not make sense. It can be 9 to 10, but 10 to 9 does not make sense. So when we take 9 minus 10, right? So 9 minus 10, so basically our meeting starts from 10, right? So it starts from 10 to whatever is their first meetings time, right? Whatever time, till whatever the time, then not unavailable, right? So they are unavailable at 9, right? So they are unavailable at 9 from the start. So what will happen when we say 9 minus 10? It actually gives us minus 60 minutes, and that is not greater than equals to 30 minutes, right? So that's why it won't push this, right? So I hope it is clear to you. If you have any doubts, please ask in the comment section below. I'll also explain this in a second, one more time, right? Next, what we are going to do, we are just going to loop on the big calendar minus 1. I'm going to explain this in a second. And if hours to minutes, big cal g plus 1 0 minus g j1 is greater than or equals to minutes, then answer dot push, sorry about the spelling mistake over here and over here, big cal j1 big cal j plus 1 0. All right, so now what we are doing over here, we are looping on big cal dot length, and as we are doing j plus 1, we have to do minus 1 over here, because when we do j plus 1 over here, then it will go out of bounds, right? So that's why we have to give minus 1 over here, so that when it's here, the maximum it can go till 1800 and not further, right? Sorry about that. And what we are doing, then we are saying big cal j plus 1 0, So what we are saying, big cal j plus 1 0. So this start time, right? This start time we are taking, and the first end time we are taking this. If their difference is greater than equals to 30 minutes, that is true. So what it does, it pushes 11:30 to 12. Then what it will take, it will check this and this. It gives a 0. So no, it won't push 14:30 to 14:30. Then it will take 16:00 and 15:00, right? And there's 1 hour gap, so they can have a meeting between that, right? So very 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 cool. Next, what we are just going to do, we are just going to, just outside the loop, what we are going to do, we're going to say hours to minutes m1 minus big cal uh, big cal dot length minus 1 1 is greater than equals to minutes. uh, then push this and m1. So what we are doing over here now, we are basically checking if this time till the end time, that is 18:30, if their difference is 30 minutes, then push that, and their difference is greater than equal to 30 minutes, so that's why it pushes 18:00 to 18:30 also into answer, right? And also in the start case where I was fumbling a bit, so over there what we were doing, over there we were checking if this, from this time to their starting meeting time, the difference, that is minus 60 minutes, right? Minus 60 minutes is not greater than equals to 30. That's why it does not push 10 to 9, right? Very 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 cool. Now if we console.log answer, it should give us the correct answer. So when we refresh this, we get the answer. 11:30 to 12, they can have a meeting. That's correct. 15:00 to 16:00, they can have a meeting, and then 18:00 to 18:30, that is the outbound, they can have a meeting at that time also, right? Very 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 cool, guys. So this was it, guys. This was the solution. If you want, I'll post it in the comment section below. And thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one.